Hello, my name is Liv, and welcome to Chasing Flags. Guys, it has been too freaking long. When I say too freaking long, I mean it. It has been several years since I've sat down and made a video like this, so I'm super excited to be back. Now, if you like motorsports content like INDYCAR, F1, NASCAR, any sort of racing, and you want to see more sit-down videos discussing the races, and you want to see behind the scenes views, kind of when I go to the race, what I do, then be sure to click subscribe and like and comment who you want to win in St. Louis in a couple weeks, and yeah, have those notifications turned on. I would love to grow this community. I'm actually trying to be more consistent about it this time around, so yeah, excited. But yeah, first, before we get into IndyCar in Detroit, we're going to talk about INDYNXT, because I feel like not enough people give INDYNXT any sort of love, and they deserve it. Now, if you don't know what INDYNXT or INDYNXT is, if you've never heard of it before, it is a support series that races alongside IndyCar at most of their tracks. I think they have 13 or 14 races this year, and it is just a step below IndyCar. So it's really cool because you get to see a lot of the drivers kind of before they even step up to IndyCar. You get to know a lot of them, and it's pretty cool. And this time around, it's way different than what is kind of normally expected, because we are getting a lot of people from the formulas categories coming from, the step in the road to F1, coming out here and trying to make the jump to IndyCar. So this year we have two pretty notable drivers. We have Dennis Hauger, who has made the jump from Formula 2 to INDYNXT with Andretti INDYNXT. And we have Juan Manuel Correa, who came out here, did a little work with HMD and some of the lower categories, helping them out, and then decided to participate because he liked what it looked like. He thought it was interesting, so he is now racing for HMD Motorsports in INDYNXT. And Dennis just won in Detroit. I'll go over the race because it was kind of chaotic, and Juan Manuel ended up on the podium because again, it was quite chaotic. It was kind of a very interesting race, to be honest. It was as chaotic as the IndyCar race. It was kind of setting us up for the day and how it was going to be, which was wild to say the least. So let's get started into INDYNXT, kind of talk about it. So in practice one, we kind of already saw people starting to brush the wall. Unfortunately, one of my favorite drivers in INDYNXT, James Rowe, ended up crashing, I think, in practice one, which kind of took some time away from the practice session, and his day was done, unfortunately. So that kind of sucked. In practice two, kind of saw a little bit similar stuff, and where people were brushing the wall, kind of pushing the limits into qualifying. Then qualifying comes. Unfortunately, my guy James crashes in qualifying, has to start 19th. I think some other people had some issues that kind of dropped them for the back. Dennis qualifies on pole after all the issues. His teammate Lockie Hughes ends up right behind him for an Andretti 1-2 qualifying, and then into race day was super hectic. Now, race day, everybody's like pushing it. Obviously, you're trying to impress people in IndyCar, so you want to push, you want to get the best position possible in any race. But it's Detroit, so if you've learned anything about Detroit, it's kind of very similar to Nashville. The Nashville street circuit, in the sense that the walls are so close that you have any sort of misstep in it and it just does not set you up for success. So there was a lot of that. I called the race the Andretti's versus the front wings because it was crazy. Honestly, it was all the cars versus the front wings in INDYNXT. When lights go out, you know, people are pushing it, and pretty much in the opening stages, there's already an accident. Already. Within, like, the first couple corners. It's wild stuff. They end up, you know, having to red flag it because I think it was Max Taylor, I'm pretty sure, ended up losing it, crashed into the wall, and then it kind of just made a big pile up. Luckily, my guy James ended up making it through that because he was in the back, but a lot of people had damage and had to go back into the pits during the red flag, and then after the red flag was over, they had to work on the cars, because in INDYNXT and INDYCAR, it's a little bit different than Formula 1, if that's what you're used to, in the sense that if there's a red flag, you're not allowed to touch the car. So like in F1, you know, when there's a red flag, you're not necessarily allowed to like fix things, but like if you want to change the tires and like do some adjustments, you can. You're allowed to. INDYCAR, no. INDYNXT, no. You can't touch the car during red flag, so you have to wait till your green flag running, and then you can touch the car. So pits are normally closed in a yellow and stuff like that, so that makes it kind of frustrating. But a lot of cars got several laps down. We had some cars that were just out, days over. I'm pretty sure Ricardo Escato was one of the cars whose day ended early. But yeah, after that, you know, you would think, okay, everybody's gonna chill out, calm down. Nope, we go right back into green flag running. You have Lockie Hughes and Salvador De Alba. So De Alba made up some places. He was like, I think he started like 5th, and then he like jumped up and was fighting Lockie Hughes for 2nd. And these guys are teammates. And the difference is like, in Formula 1, I would say that, you know, you're more in the sense one team. Like, yes, you can fight individually if, you know, your team principal and the team is like, okay, you can, it's your race, like, you guys are fighting, you can be more individual. In INDYCAR, every team, even though they're under the same team, in this case, let's say Arrow McLaren is one team, each car is its own team. So each car has their own performance that they want to get. And they're not necessarily trying to play the teammate game like you would in Formula 1, where you're fighting for constructors. You're like trying to get a team's championship. So obviously, you know, you can fight as long as you don't mess it up for your whole team. No, there's none of that here. You can fight as much as you want. So in INDYNXT, they were fighting each other. They were like doing some side by side, Lockie Hughes and De Alba. It was at first quite clean, and then it wasn't. And they kind of like nicked each other's like front wings, and it just basically ended their races in different stages. So De Alba had to come in pretty early, like he jumped up to 2nd, then he had the front wing problem, and it was just something that he could not handle. He was trying to keep driving the car to make it work, but the wing was kind of just coming off, and at that point that's a safety hazard, so you're gonna get called in anyways. So they just called him in to get a new wing. He still ended up in the top 10, which is insane, but that's just how fast they were in the front. Like, I feel like the front to like the mid pack was like completely just separate in how fast they were going. So this guy had time to pit and get a new front wing and was totally fine and stayed in the top 10. So like, great job for Salvador to keep that. Lockie made it way longer. You know, his wing was kind of staying on, so they were like, you know what, we're just gonna keep you out. Like, it's not flapping as hard, like it seems to be holding up. It did not. It was kind of like about to come off, and they had to call him in, and so he went from being up in podium places to, you know, his race basically pushing him farther back. Pretty sure he also finished within the top 10. But yeah, insane. While all of this stuff is going on, you have like 5 cars fighting for like 3rd place. So at this point it was like Lockie Hughes, De Alba, Juan Manuel, and I think Jack Miller and I'm trying to think. Oh, Kyle Collette. They're all like in this like pack, fighting for basically second onwards. And Dennis Hauger's just like, I'm gone. Bye. And he's just out. He's out. Far in the distance, just having the most clean race possible. He's like pushing. At some point, he's like 5 seconds ahead, which is like good for him, bro. I think he like chilled out after a while because he didn't want to like push his luck. And then we had a caution. And the caution was for Jordan Missick. He crashed, I think, within the last couple laps, and we didn't know if there was going to be like a restart or if it was just going to end under yellow. They did end up doing a restart, and in the restart, it's Juan Manuel, Kyle Collette, Dennis. Dennis just takes off again. He's like, see ya, bye, I've got the faster car. And yeah, it was just Dennis Hauger dominating again. This man has won 4 out of the first 5 races, I think, in INDYNXT, which is insane. It's very impressive. You know, I think Dennis is obviously ready to make the jump to IndyCar. There's just no open spaces, so he just was like, okay, let's go race in INDYNXT and learn. Because, you know, he grew up basically racing the formulas categories, so he's not necessarily used to everything that is American motorsports. So, you know, ovals are a completely new concept to him, and in St. Louis, you know, that'll be his first oval race. So he's dominated the street and road courses so far. However, it's going to be very interesting to see how well he does in oval season, which is coming up really soon, because that is going to kind of determine whether he can take this stronghold that he has on this championship right now and run away with it. I think he can. I just don't know how it's going to go, because he's tested on an oval once. I'm pretty sure he tested at Nashville Super Speedway. But testing on an oval and oval racing are two completely separate concepts, and oval racing is a new concept. He's mentioned that that's something that he's looking forward to learning, but he knows that's something that's new to him, so it's something he has to get good at. And if you want to be an IndyCar driver in the future, you know, that is something that you have to know. You don't necessarily have to heavily rely on it. I think Alex Palou is a great example of somebody that doesn't win on ovals too often. Like, I mean, he just won his first one in the Indy 500, right? So he doesn't win on ovals typically, but he just learns to be consistent on that and then dominate and win in the street and road courses. And I think that's something that if Dennis can learn ovals well enough to be consistent in them, he doesn't necessarily have to win every single time. I think it'll set him up completely fine for IndyCar. You know, as long as he knows how to oval race and not crash the car and not crash into other people and to keep himself safe and navigate through the field, I think he'll be fine. So yeah, Dennis Hauger's running away with it. I think Lockie Hughes is, I don't remember if he's still in second. He may very well still be in second. If not, Kyle Collette in the championship has jumped him or is up there. I think Kyle's still in the top 3. Juan Manuel gets his first podium, along with Kyle Collette gets his 3rd podium of the season. And yeah, it was a very interesting, entertaining race. I'll try to put like little bits and pieces of footage of some of the things that were kind of going on while I was trying to explain it all, because I'm not that great at explaining. I'm going to get better. But it was just a wild, wild race, but wildly entertaining, and it really did set us up for the chaos that we were going to get in IndyCar. So let's talk about that. You know, we've had drivers being very vocal about how they don't really like the Detroit street course, right? I was a big fan of Belle Isle. I know not everybody was. You know, there's some people that just wanted something new. There are people that lived, I think, on Belle Isle that didn't want IndyCar to be there forever. So change was needed, but a lot of drivers kind of feel like the Detroit street course was not the right change. I am in between liking it and not liking it. I agree in the sense that, like, the racing is weird because the walls are so narrow. It's like Nashville street circuit. Like, you can't really race in the corners. Like, you can try, but the odds of succeeding, I would say, are not as high. as other tracks and other street circuits where you can. So I can understand the frustration. I think there should be some changes made to the layout, and I know that's kind of hard because it's a street circuit, so there's a lot of permits and things that they have to get approved by the city before they can make all these changes and blah blah blah. But I think there's some change needed to make the racing product better and to keep it from being as dangerous as I think it is. Because like we all know IndyCar and Formula One and all these things are dangerous to participate in, right? We've accepted that, but there's a line that needs to be drawn of like, okay, this is kind of too much. And I think Detroit is kind of pushing that line. It's not necessarily like fully there, but like between the last 2 years alone, the amount of cautions that we've gotten out of it, the amount of incidents, you know, and later I'll talk about some of the scary incidents that we had in the race. You know, it's something to be aware of, you know, and with the drivers not really liking the layout, it's something that I think they should talk to the drivers about potentially fixing in the future. So we'll kind of see how that goes, but let's dive into practice and qualifying and everything. So in practice, kind of the biggest news coming into this weekend was Alex Palou has dominated the start of the season. Pretty sure he's won 5 out of the first 6 races. He just won the Indianapolis 500. I have been to the Indianapolis 500 3 times, and I have been to 3 races this year. I went to St. Pete, and I was at the Indy Road Course and the Indy 500, and Alex Palou has won all of the races I was at. This man is dominating on a level that is unprecedented. It is astonishing to watch. Like, yes, in a sense, it's like boring, where, you know, you're getting the Max Verstappen vibes of like nobody else is really winning. It's getting boring. Like, we need it to be more, like, we need to see more faces up in victory lane, blah 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 blah. But you can't knock Alex Palou for what he is accomplishing right now. Like, this man is just on it, and he doesn't seem to lose any of it. He's just very consistent. You know, when he doesn't win, he's just consistent. That is why he has won 3 of the last 4 titles. Alex Palou won 1 points paying race last year, but he was so consistent that even though other teams won more and other drivers won more races than him in that season, it didn't matter. He still won the championship. You know, and I think that's the level of driver IQ and like being so mature in his driving that puts him above a lot of other people. Like, this man is crossing Scott Dixon territory of like, you know, he's got the 500, he's got 3 titles, he's probably going to win his 4th this year. He's moving up. You know, I listened to my friends at the GRP podcast, and they were talking about, you know, is Alex Palou hitting Scott Dixon territory? I think he is. Like, he's winning, he's dominating. And I think this week was kind of like, is Alex Palou also going to dominate Detroit? That was kind of the question coming in. So in practice, Alex Palou was not the fastest driver in practice. It was actually Kyle Kirkwood. And Kyle Kirkwood was one of the fastest drivers this weekend. So was Colton Herta. I don't remember if Colton was the fastest in practice 1 or if it was Kyle. But I remember something wild happened in practice where, Kyle ended up getting nudged from behind by Will Power through like multiple corners of the track. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen a driver just like stick it on another car. And like, Indy cars don't fall apart. Like, an F1 car, if they hit something, they're more likely to fall apart. And I mean, that's built into their design to do that, so that's normal. But Indy cars are like kind of built like tanks. It's kind of crazy. So like, you can like go straight onto another car apparently like this and just push them and push them and push them. And I'm like, wow. So yeah, a little taste of like beef and spice. But you know, Will and Kyle ended up talking about it later, and they're good. And Kyle was just like, well, I'm sitting high up in practice and he's not, so I don't really care, you know. And I'm just like, fair. But Andretti was looking really, really, really fast. McLaren cars not looking that fast. Like, you know, breaking into the top 10s in the practice, but not really that fast. But qualifying is where everything gets interesting. And so I didn't actually watch qualifying because I was at work but I had friends that were updating me as it was going on, and I was like, whoa, what the hell? And then I looked at the list, the classification, and I was like, I feel like this is wild stuff. So the McLaren cars, Christian was the only one to move up in his group and break the Fast 12 and the Fast 6. Pato and Nolan didn't. Nolan had an issue where basically his car died and he was unlucky and wasn't able to continue in qualifying. Pato just, he said it plain, he didn't have the pace to make it. That was just his car and what he was capable of. Christian breaks into the top 12. We had a lot of faces not make it into the top 12 that we're kind of used to seeing up there. So we had Joseph Newgarden didn't make the top 12. You know, that's kind of wild. Yeah, a lot of drivers. We had drivers that were pushing and out qualifying. Long-time drivers. So Jacob Abel, who has struggled recently. I love Jacob. Good friend of mine. Kind of. I know him well enough. He has been struggling during the start of the season. He's also in a Dale Coyne, so I don't expect him to go out winning races. But you know, he is normally qualified super far in the back. This time qualified 20th, which for him, that is great, astonishing news. Rinus VK makes it into the top 12 with that DCR. And I kind of expect it out of Rinus because, first of all, he is better on like street and road courses. Like, he's solid at ovals for sure. But I was expecting him to do pretty well, especially with like recent changes that DCR made. They brought in Mike Cannon and a couple other guys to replace some of the people that have worked on their team. And you can see a change in this team like in an instant. It doesn't even feel like the same team, and it is mostly. So yeah, Rinus getting into the top 12, awesome job by him. You had Graham Rahal getting into the top 12. This man had an engine penalty that was gonna knock him back regardless, but he qualified in the top 12 and in the top 6 before his penalty. So, you know, the Rahal Letterman Lanigan cars, they're looking pretty fast, and I have no clue where they're getting the speed from, but okay. Yeah. Colton Herta ended up on the pole. David Malukas second behind him. The AJ Foyt cars are looking super fast. It is astonishing. I absolutely love it. I love seeing it for Malukas because I think AJ Foyt hasn't been that as fast over the last few years as they could have been. And yeah, I think that is a very good job from them to qualify that high up. They finished second in the Indy 500 last week after Ericsson's disqualification, which if you didn't know, Marcus Ericsson and Kyle Kirkwood and Kyle Milot all got disqualified from the 500 last week. That was kind of wild. But yeah, third place was Kyle Kirkwood. In qualifying, he felt like he had more to give. He was like, I messed up. He hit the wall, broke a toe link in his car, still qualified third. That's wild to me, which just shows how much speed he kind of had all weekend. And he was like, you know, had I not messed up and broke the toe link, he was like, I think I would have gotten a pole. And he's like, I've never been more upset to qualify third in my life. And he will prove why he was so fast and so upset with that on Sunday. So getting into Sunday, the story's kind of, okay, can Colton Herta win from pole? Does Kyle Kirkwood have what it takes to go from third to first? Because he's been looking super fast, like pacing the field. Or can David Malukas squeak out a win? Can somebody else come from further back? You know, Pato qualified 19th, I believe. Nolan was further down. I think he was like 26th or 27th, something like that. Very slow because of his issue. Didn't really get to put out any laps. You know, can one of them come back up and you know, with a rightly timed caution, do something crazy? Can Christian Lundgaard get his first win for McLaren on his street course? Because, you know, Christian Lundgaard's really good at street courses. He won at Toronto a couple years ago. So can he make something happen? We don't know. Those were kind of the ideas. Can Alex pull out? Find a way to win again? Is he just that fast? Can Scott Dixon do some crazy fuel magic like he did last year in Detroit and win this race. You know, these are the things that we're kind of thinking about going into the weekend. And that's the fun stuff about it. Now, the way that the race started, you know, I was expecting chaos, which we ended up getting. But at first, I was like, wow, Detroit is very tame. Lights go out, you know, or, well, you know, checker flag, green flag waves, they're racing, first few laps looking clean. I'm like, wow, nobody's crashed into each other yet. This is crazy. Then the chaos happened. The chaos happened, and it didn't freaking stop once it happened. I forget who was the first person to crash, but it was like after that first one, it just kept happening. We had David Malukas getting into Alex Palou about midway through the race. Alex Palou ends up DNFing the race, which nobody saw coming. We had different strategies kind of going out there. We had a crazy incident with Felix Rosenqvist and Louis Foster. So basically what happened is Louis Foster like hit a bump, because Detroit's very bumpy. It's a street circuit. They're not going to fix all the roads every single time. You know, real cars drive on them. It's kind of expected that it's going to be bumpy and not smooth. That he hit a bump, his suspension on his car basically exploded, and in front of him was Felix Rosenqvist. Out of no fault of Louis' own, he ends up crashing very violently into the back of Felix Rosenqvist, sends Rosenqvist into the wall, and then flies into the runoff, into the tire barrier. It was really scary for both of them. Super glad that they're both okay. Right now, Felix is just dealing with something with his knee, but he said that he's cleared. It's just pain because he hit the steering wheel. So, you know, it is really unfortunate that that happened to both of them. Took them out of the race, obviously, both of them, but more importantly, you know, I'm just glad that they are okay, because that was scary, and that could have been way worse than it was. And it's part of the reason why a lot of drivers don't like the Detroit street circuit, because crazy shit can happen, and when you know, crash as violently as they did, something could go wrong. And I know it can happen at any track, but it's just the way that these tracks are designed can make it 10 times worse. So, you know, very frustrating. You had different strategies at play throughout the race, and I think that made it super interesting to watch it play out, because towards the end of the race, you know, you had guys like Kirkwood, Herta, Malukas, before the Palou incident, because he got a penalty for that. Award, Lundgaard, he had all these guys on kind of one strategy, and within that, they were kind of in different strategies. So like Pato took his soft stint at a different time than others. I was hoping they would have pit Pato earlier than they ended up pitting him, because I think that when that caution came out towards the end, it would have set him up to finish higher up, probably on the podium. But, you know, you live and you learn. Sometimes things happen, sometimes they don't. So they were hoping that he would be able to move through the field as normal with the way that the layout kind of was. You had guys like Ferrucci, Simpson, and Armstrong that made their last stop early, and then when the final caution came out, they benefited from that so greatly, because they didn't have to make a stop. Everybody else had to come in and make a stop. And, you know, that put them high up. Ferrucci was leading. Nobody saw this coming. I didn't see it coming. I did not see Santino Ferrucci leading a lap coming in this race, let alone several. But because, you know, he benefited so greatly on being off the pace and getting that rightly timed caution, you know, he was up there. And so it made it interesting to see, can all these guys that were on this main strategy beforehand, that were supposed to be up front in the lead, can they fight their way back in through these cars that pitted early and make something happen? Kyle Kirkwood said, hell yeah, I can. And he just takes off. You know, he bumps into Santino, knocks his wing a little bit, but apparently that just made his car even faster. I was like, holy shit. Because he took off he was like Dennis Howard, into the wind and gone, just chilling. Colton Herta was trying his best to fight, ended up using most of his push to pass early, and he was trying to catch up to Santino, to pass Santino. Will Power was in the mix. Pretty sure he was up to second at one point, and falls back to Ferrucci, and then falls back to Colton Herta, and he was also trying to make a move stick on Colton, which he didn't end up making it work. Further back behind Armstrong was Pato, and behind Simpson and Armstrong was Pato and Christian. Good race from them. They finished 7th and 8th, I'm pretty sure, which is a solid result, and especially for Pato, that started, I think, 19th, to go from 19th to 8th, really good. That is kind of the consistency that we need as a McLaren team, in the sense that, like, yes, would we want to be on the podium? Would we want to win races more often? Yes, but to win a championship, which I know everybody's like, plus taking off with it, is anybody else really gonna catch up? I'm like, you just need Pelot to have like 2 or 3 really bad races, and it puts a lot of people back in this mix. So, you know, I don't want to say the championship's over after round 6 or 7, whatever we're on now. God, this year is going by so fast. But you need to have consistency. You need to, when your race is not the best race, to still finish high up in the points. And 7th and 8th place is really high up. So, actually, did they finish 7th and 8th? They might have finished 8th and 9th. I don't remember. I just know they finished up there in the top 10. And that's the consistency that you need, that even when you don't have everything that goes right in the weekend, you still are good enough to get things done and to get good points. So, happy for them. Nolan, I think, finished 19th, and he was several laps down. He had penalties, he had issues. He had Scott McLaughlin tagging him, which, you know, now he has some Twitter beef with TK and Scotty, and I love them both, so I'm just like, why are we fighting, guys? Please stop. But it was kind of funny. I'll put up, like, the screenshots of them, their, like, Twitter beef, because honestly, the T is entertaining, especially with everything that's been going on in the last month. So yeah, we had that, and then solid day for the McLaren team. Could have gone better, because as a McLaren fan, that's kind of where I'm gonna encapsulate this episode, is papaya. The papaya bias is here. But could be better. Hopefully, you know, once we hit oval season, we'll hit our stride. Pato's won on several ovals. He's pretty good at it. He's very good at St. Louis. So I think it'll be a very fun race. It's going to be a night race. I will be at St. Louis, so I'm so excited for that. And yeah, let's talk about the winner. So Kyle Kirkwood wins this race. Great job by him. He pretty much dominated the weekend, you know, even though he didn't get the pole and Colton did. Everybody kind of knew this man was fast. It was just, can he get it done? Can he not make any mistakes? And really, he didn't. Like, yeah, he got his wing messed up, but it held on better than any next wings. So, you know, he was able to win. And, you know, he and Pelot have been the only 2 drivers that have won. He won at Long Beach. He wins here. You know, it can set him up to, you know, maybe bring on a fight for the championship going forward. We don't really know yet how that's going to go. But, you know, looking strong. And all the wins so far have been all Hondas. Crazy stuff. Like, not a single Chevy has won so far. We'll see if that changes in St. Louis. I have a feeling it might, because I feel like the Chevys do a little bit better in the ovals compared to the Hondas. So yeah, we'll kind of see how that goes. I'm excited to go night racing. I'm excited to be there. I will be vlogging. I will show you guys behind the scenes of what it's like to go to a IndyCar race at night. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let me know down below who you want to win in St. Louis, who you want to see on the podium, who do you think is going to be strong, you know, anything like that. Just let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you thought about Detroit. If you have any opinions about the circuit, if you have any opinions about the hybrids, because a lot of the drivers have been talking crap about the hybrids, which I am not going to delve into today. I'll delve into that in another video. But yeah, just let me know what you guys think. If you guys thought the Detroit GP was entertaining, if you think there's any adjustments they should make to the layout, let me know. Make sure you subscribe for the next race review and to stay updated. I still have plenty of videos coming out soon. I'm going to have a video about Carb Day at IMS. I'm going to have a video about Legends Day and Indy 500 Race Day, which I didn't get too much footage of Race Day, so I'm just going to combine Legends Day and 500 Day together into one video. But yeah, I'll have some of those coming out within the next few weeks, and then the St. Louis video as well. And then I will be... What do I have plans to do? I'm going to try to see if I can go to Iowa for IndyCar. For anybody asks me why am I going to Iowa, I have family out there that I haven't seen in over a decade, so I'm thinking about going if I can make it work. We'll see. But I am going to go to NASCAR at the Speedway for the Brickyard 400 next month, so I'll be able to do some stuff there. And yeah, just having fun, enjoying the summer, seeing if I can make it to more IndyCar races. We'll see how that all goes. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video of me just ranting and, you know, losing my mind about everything that was going on, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Peace.